Hello, my name's Suraj and I'm the founder of Soul Legal Services. Yeah, the industry has always really been a hard one, and I remember I had an old OG lecturer at Staffs Uni who was, bless him, was probably in his mid to late 70s, and he was doing it just because he enjoyed seeing children, as he saw them, work their way through the industry. And one of the things that I'll never forget, when I was moaning and complaining to him about how hard it was to get into the industry. I think I was in my postgrad, and I remember him saying to me, well, when did anybody tell you that it was easy? Because I started in the 60s and it was no easier. So it's always been a really, really hard industry to get into. For me, I didn't have anything. So, I mean, I'm the first generation in my family to even be born in England. So we don't have those kind of connections in the family. We don't go back generationally in this country. So there's no chance. And my mum worked on reception, because on a reception in a school, and she did that from very early on, because at 16 she had to jump out of school because the family needed money. We weren't a wealthy family. And my dad came to England when he was in his early 20s. So he was, and he managed to go through from being a warehouse worker to a forklift driver, and he's still really proud that he got his license. So that was sort of where I came from, and then I was born on a council estate, former council estate. So I didn't have those connections. I didn't have anyone to sort of guide or steer me. So I was really just deep in on it, and the sort of the focus for it. So one thing I did do was, during my degree, I was really lucky to leverage one connection, and I think I stress to anyone and everyone, no matter what you do as a career, is to build connections and a network. It just happens to be something that I really naturally do, and I really, really love. I enjoy connecting people, and it was ended up being that there was a lawyer that we used as a family, because there was some commercial property that my dad bought. Was the reason that I came to Stoke-on-Trent. I was actually born 10 miles north of Birmingham, but we're here because of my dad's business. And it happened to be a young chap that I went to school with, whose dad actually ended up being a partner as the years went on in one of the bigger law firms in this country, actually. So I had those connections to leverage. So I did what I could, but in those days I wasn't getting paid for anything. So I really had to dedicate my whole life to my career, because it was like, well, a lot of people would go off and they did work as they would in seasonal work. I didn't. I then went off and I did work experience for law firms. And of course, coming from the background, I didn't have those connections, and I also didn't have my first and all these A-star A-levels. I was very much average, if not below average, when it came to grades back to GCSE days. So I didn't have that as leverage, and it just made life hard. But what I did then manage to leverage was the work ethic that I had when I managed to get into their firms. They never denied the work ethic that I brought to the table, and the ability to just soak up knowledge, the ability to be adaptable in the scenario. One of my first jobs, I was thrown in within 2 weeks from a normal paralegal position to a litigation role, because somebody was leaving and there was nobody there to take over that work, and it was a busy area of the firm, and the managing director was the one that actually interviewed me, and he was the one that pulled me into his office and said, right, I need you to step up and do this. Can you do it? And I was like, well, yeah. Because I had nothing to lose. So obviously I was going to say yes. A lot of people might have said no. I didn't get any increase in wage or anything like that, but I knew I was gaining a hell of a lot more experience from doing it. So yeah, it's never easy. It was never hard. It was something I consistently had to battle with and deal with during the industry, and then people wouldn't recognise the skill sets that I had. Then I would move to another firm and they would go, well, listen, this is your job, just do your job. I don't care how much business you might be able to bring in, and I don't know how much you like business development or communicating, connecting, networking. That's not your job, so do your job. And so I always found that really hard. It just wasn't aligned with who I was as a person, but I didn't know that at the time, and I had nobody to really show me what that would look like, and how your personality might relate to something that you do, and how your passions might relate to something that you do for a living. There was never anything really that I thought of. It was, I'm going to be a lawyer, I want to be a lawyer, because I thought that was my North Star, and that was my focus at the time. And yeah, it wasn't always the most successful thing that I did. It was really hard. I look back on the times and I kind of, it was hard. It was a lot I was doing. There was a lot that I was going through. I did suffer burnout back probably only 3 years in. It was a hard time. It was a hard industry to work in. It's very, very high pressure. It's fast paced, and sometimes it doesn't always give back in the way that you might want it to, or the way that you might expect it to. And for some people that's absolutely fine, and I really appreciate, sometimes I wish that I did have that, I was going to say simple life, but they may not agree, but when they're just comfortable where they are, and they're just happy with it, they got a good wage, and it's local, and it's a great job, people still revere the title lawyer, and that works for some people, but it just didn't work for me. So it brought me to where I am, but it wasn't easy times. But advice wise, I think it's not much more that I can say, is that just it's not always about grades, it's also about connections, and it's about the work ethic, that it's what you bring to the table more than just grades. That people aren't really going to look at that in the first couple of years, maybe, hopefully. After that they can recognise your skill set and what more you bring to the table.